Welcome to the BAC Engineering Committee. Today's November 9th, 2021. And I have a notice. The notice is members of the board may participate remotely by telephone or other electronic means due to the local public health emergency, coronavirus pandemic, declared on March 16th, 2020, pursuant to the provisions of Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021. All right, we have 8 things on our agenda today, so we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to need help with the committee, keeping track of time, because we want to make sure we give everybody a chance to have their full moments to talk. So what do you think, another minute or so, or should we start?
I think I saw all the names from the first one come on, so Luke, if you want to take it away, if you're all here, that is.
Yeah, you got it, Chris. So good evening, everyone. My name is Luke Hansen, Transportation Planner TPP here in Minneapolis Public Works. And we're here tonight with a presentation on the Hennepin First Roadway Improvement Project being led by Hennepin County. And we'll be presenting information on a couple of corridor concepts this evening at the 15%-ish range. Just formally here, we're not requesting a formal resolution, but of course are open to one, should the group have a preference or opinion that you'd wish to articulate on what we're presenting. And just with respect to time, I think I'll hand things over to Josh here, who I see joined from the county. And Josh can introduce himself and the project team that we have here in attendance.
Thanks, Luke. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josh Potter, Transportation Project Manager with Hennepin County, County lead for this Hennepin and First Roadway Improvements Project. I'll kick it off to the Bolton and Mink team here. Looks like Ross, why don't you go ahead?
Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ross Tillman with Bolton and Mink. And with me, I've got Cody Christensen with Bolton and Mink, as well as Colin Harris with Alta Planning and Design. And appreciate the time, everybody. I know we've got a tight agenda. We have a ton of information to share, so I'm going to try to just kind of blast through the slides I have. I know everybody has seen, or I think everybody has seen, some concepts in advance. So we're looking forward to some conversation afterwards too. So why we're here, and just kind of a recap, we met with this group for the first time about a year ago to introduce the project at the 0% level. We had a second meeting with the group April 2021 of this year. And we talked about one-way versus two-way bike facilities. And coming out of that meeting, the preference was to really maintain a one-way pair facility similar to the roadway network. So that's what we're going to share today. And then today, of course, just to get your input and feedback on the concept alternatives that we're going to talk about. Project area, you've seen this slide before, primarily on Hennepin Avenue, First Avenue Northeast between Main Street and 8th Street. This is a little different than before. We did add the orange line on Main Street between First and Hennepin. That's where the seam trail connection through the park board is going to be integrated with this project. We've got a slide on that later too. And then just a reminder, the current project is a federally funded bikeway project. The scope for that project was adding a bikeway, replacing signals, ADA upgrades, curb extensions where feasible was the base scope. And this is not a retrofit project, or this is a retrofit project, excuse me, not a reconstruction. So for the most part in the concepts, you're going to see us trying to save as much infrastructure as we possibly can to fit in the bikeway and make some of these other improvements as well. Schedule-wise, construction for this project changed from 2023 to 2024. That's now in line with when the E-Line BRT will be implemented through this area. Otherwise, we're currently here in phase 2 of our planning effort, sharing concepts. We plan to be back with this group and others early 2022 with a preferred alternative. Refreshing on project goals, the things we're focusing in on here are really safety and accessibility, multimodal connectivity, supporting land use context of the area and the business district, and then of course active living and environmental health, the bikeway component. We have a slew of engagement opportunities that we've done so far and that we plan to do as part of this project. Like I mentioned before, we're kind of here in the second round of engagement, meeting with advisory committees, neighborhood groups. We have a public open house next week. Similar process to what we did the fall and winter of last year. We're getting input on the concepts now, and we plan to come back in early 2022 again with that preferred alternative to talk through. Key things we've heard to date: safety and accessibility, active living and walkability, serving and plan growth in the area, streetscape and public realm improvements are important to people. Of course, the business district and supporting that is important in this area, and then parking needs. So those are the very summarized versions of what we've heard throughout the engagement we've been through to date. The project team summarized all the input we've gotten, kind of paired with the goals for the project into 8 evaluation criteria that are shown on the screen here that we're using to compare alternatives. And so later on in the presentation, we do have a screen grab of the matrix we have that compares the concepts we have to the existing situation out on Hennepin and First, looking at these 8 different criteria. So I'll range here from ped bike infrastructure, safety, transit service quality, things along those lines are what we're looking to compare alternatives with. So just a refresher for folks, this is the existing typical section. I'll just note too that there really is nothing typical about either one of these roadways. This particular section was taken on Hennepin between 2nd and University. So that general 3-lane section, 2 parking lanes, 1 on each side, and then of course no bike facility now with sidewalks largely on both sides of the streets. That's the existing setup of Hennepin and First. The first concept that we've prepared is pretty much in line with the funded scope. So what was presented in the funding grant for the federal money was a 3 travel lane idea with 1 parking lane on the left side of the roadway with a buffered on-street bike lane taking the place of the parking lane on the right side of the road. This concept includes floating transit stops, curb extensions where we can, free right removals, ADA improvements, and then a couple other things I've got some detailed slides on later on. And again, this is pretty much in line with what the federal grant had in it. So we wanted to make sure we took that idea, got it on paper in a way that was feasible. And this is just a rendering of what that could look like. So again, the three general purpose travel lanes and then the on-street buffer bikeway with the paint buffer. The second concept we have is a variation of that, where we're actually repurposing the 3rd travel lane on the road. So this concept has 2 general purpose travel lanes. The right lane becomes a transit lane. There remains to be 1 parking lane on the left side of each roadway, 1 protected bike lane. So again, that's taking place of the parking on the right side. There's a couple instances where that's not the case in the concepts that you'll see on the layouts, but for the most part, parking is removed on the right. This bikeway has curb protection, but it's at street level. Again, the floating transit stops, curb extensions, free right removals, and ADA improvements are all part of this project, or part of this concept as well. And again, just a rendering of what this might look like. So you see the 2 general purpose lanes, the bus only lane where we're showing the transit bus in there, and then the protected bikeway on the right side. Each of these concepts does include the seam connection. So this is an identified gap in the regional trail network that the park board identified through their planning process. The gap is between First Avenue and Hennepin on Main Street. And so what the idea here is to repurpose, that's a pretty wide section right now on Main Street, and repurpose a portion of the shoulder and through lane for the southbound direction to put in a shared use path between First and Hennepin. And then what's shown here on the screen, it might be hard to see with the size of these arrows, but just how bicyclists can route through the area. Generally speaking, if you're going southbound on the regional trail network on Main Street, you're going to remain on the right side hop over onto the shared use path between First and Hennepin, and then continue down the regional trail past Hennepin to the south. And if you're traveling northbound on the regional trail network, you'd stay on that side of the street, hop on the shared use path past Hennepin, and then merge over to the right side of Main Street at the signal at First and get into the shoulder, which is the bike lane right now on Main Street. Another key piece to these concepts is what we're looking to do at the triangle. So the triangle is the intersection of Hennepin, Central, and Fifth. Again, this is something that's included in both of those concepts, so concept 1 and concept 2. As many of you know, this intersection is pretty complex right now. It's hard to know where everyone's going. It's a mix of vehicle, pedestrian, bicycle traffic. Again, it's kind of complicated to understand where people may be coming from when you're crossing. Some of these crosswalks are long. If you're walking through the area, the refuge in the middle of all 3 roadways is a very small little island that you can get stuck on, which isn't comfortable. This also is a bottleneck for traffic in the area as well. And most importantly, this is one of the most unsafe intersections between the corridors. So a lot of crashes have occurred here in the past. So we really looked for a way to improve this area. And the idea that the team came up with was to essentially separate Fifth Street for vehicle traffic. So if you're in a vehicle and you're driving on Fifth Street, you can no longer drive through Central and Hennepin on Fifth. You'd be rerouted around the area to get to your destination. If you're walking or if you're biking, you would still be able to traverse kind of along the Fifth Street alignment through what we're calling that triangle area, or the little peninsula that kind of juts out from the Henson development. What's shown here is very graphical, so that what's shown in that triangle is just meant to indicate some potential there for plaza area, ped bike accommodations, streetscaping, those sorts of things. All intersections would remain signalized to some degree for the movements remaining. I will note that that dark line on Central is meant to represent a median. And so Central and Fifth would be a right in, right out type intersection to get to and from Fifth Street. And this is a rendering of what that could look like. Again, very conceptual. I think there's a lot of potential in that plaza area for gateway type features, streetscaping, green infrastructure, all those different things. And then the Henson development is that kind of white blob on the right-hand side there where a building will be. It's being built now, of course. From a bicycle routing perspective here, again, you're going to continue to travel on Fifth, or if you're on Hennepin, you continue to travel and use that new bikeway. If you are crossing Hennepin and Central on Fifth, the only difference will be that when you cross Central, you would wait in the plaza before you can cross Hennepin. And likewise, once you cross Hennepin, you wait in the plaza area until you can cross Central. And that's just because of the way the signal phasing here will change and adapt with this project. So they'll go from a 3-phase signal to a 2-phase signal when the Fifth Street vehicle phase is removed. All bike and ped crossings will remain signalized. And just kind of additional information on the safety component here. Looking at a couple different versions of conflict points. This one's vehicle conflict, so humongous reduction in motor vehicle conflict points, which should correspond with a reduction in crashes. So 58 conflict points down to 16 with this concept installed. On the pedestrian side, that's a 40% reduction, so 35 down to 21. Of course, depending on how you're using the facility on a bike, might be more in line with one or the other, depending on where you're actually riding. So humongous safety benefits as a potential here with doing this fix. We did, like I said, summarize the concepts kind of on a scale of poor, fair, and good as we're comparing all the concepts to one another using those 8 goals I mentioned. And generally speaking, I know we're short on time. Concept 2 tends to fare better than concept 1 when you compare those. Concept 1 tends to compare better to no build. Of course, as you're adding infrastructure for bicyclists and improving things for other modes as well. Remaining decisions, of course, we're trying to get feedback from everybody here on a lot of things. Bikeway type being one of them. We showed the buffered bikeway versus a protected bikeway on street. Transit lane incorporation, streetscape priorities. If you saw on the layouts, we do have images for green infrastructure, but at this point, no actual locations are identified for that yet. That's something that's being worked on right now. Coordination with other projects in the area and which project is going to do what. And of course, the on-street parking impacts. And next steps, we do have an online listening session. So the kind of the big public open house next Wednesday, the 17th, 6 to 8. Everyone's welcome to join that. There will be more information shared during that meeting. We have a longer time. Design refinement based on input we receive, more targeted outreach with stakeholders. And then, like I mentioned, a project update early 2022, where we'd bring back the preferred alternative for more input. So with that, any questions? And I realized that was very fast, but
Yeah,
trying to get through it
sorry.
as quick as I could.
You did a great job with it. Are there any questions? I'm looking for any hands. All right, I see Deanna.
Yeah, can you tell me again what the two different bikeway type choices are?
I can. I'll show you too. Concept one was an on-street buffered bike lane.
Okay.
So a 6-foot bike lane, 6-foot buffer. Concept two is an on-street protected bike lane. So a 5-foot buffer with a raised concrete curb separation, protecting the bikeway from traffic.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to. I have a different perspective on the raised concrete than the rest of the team, so I'm not going to comment.
You sure? All right.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I see Jesse.
Yeah, one of the questions I want to ask, for the bike lane dimensions that you're showing on the concept layouts and the sections, are those bike lane dimensions exclusive of the gutter pan area, or do they include that?
They do not include the gutter pan area. Correct, Cody?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Aaron.
Hey, yeah, I actually don't really have a question. I just wanted to compliment the team on concept 2. I think that is fantastic. The transit lane plus the protected bicycle lane, I think will make a huge difference in the area. And then specifically that triangle, I think will be just such a huge improvement over the area. Obviously you have traffic stats related to that you were sharing, but I just really, I don't travel through that area a ton by bike, but when I do, it's not a friendly place to be. So having curb protection and also having transit next to you instead of speeding drivers, at least probably most of the time, would be pretty huge upgrade too. So thank you all.
Thank you. Jesse.
Yeah, sorry, another question here. When I was looking at the intersection, at least in concept 2, I can't remember. I prefer concept 2 is great. Concept 1 is definitely in the right direction too. But when I was looking at the intersection of Central and Hennepin, there looks like on the west side there was a through and left lane, and it looks like when you get to the other side of on the receiving side of Hennepin, it makes it so, like, because it's a through left, you're like shifting the lanes of traffic into and having to like do new curb. And I was wondering why there would have to be a through left on the west leg, and it couldn't just be a left turn lane.
I think I'm understanding. So in concept 2, we've got the transit lane on the right, and then we need to have 2 through lanes to get everyone else through. And so that left lane can be shared as a shared through left. With the concept shown on the screen here, again, that was meant to provide space, I believe, for the bikeway on the right-hand side of the road. Cody, you can jump in too if I'm missing a point here, but
yeah, I think what you have shown in this picture is our concept 2. So that would be the transit lane. So we needed a spot for that transit lane to terminate. So that best option would be getting them through the central intersection, and then they would merge back in with traffic, call it the east side of Central. So as Ross mentioned, we need those 2 through vehicular movements through that intersection, which is why that extra curb work is needed on the north side. Concept 1, I believe, would be the 2 right lanes would be through lanes, and the left lane would be a left only, and the curb work would not be needed.
Okay.
Okay, we have a couple more, and then I think we need to wrap it up. Janice?
I was just going to ask if we wanted to, if people felt agreed on a motion, whether it was worthwhile for us to support concept 2, supporting transit and/or the curb, or maybe people don't like the curb. I mean, I don't know if we should.
I'm
motion,
with
that's
you, Janice, on this.
What are people thinking? Are we thinking? Thank you for proposing that, Janice. I'm on board too.
Yeah, I'd happily second Janice's motion.
Okay, I guess I made a motion that we, like the plan, and we prefer concept 2. I think we would probably be happy with concept 1, but we prefer concept 2.
So this is Matthew Hendricks chiming in. I actually feel a little more strongly towards concept 2 because it's got a physical raised buffer for the bike lane, and because it includes transit. And so I think we may want to state that preference more strongly to say, we should pursue, or we recommend that the county and the project partners pursue concept 2 specifically and not pursue concept 1. This is a pretty big deal in the sense that it's a federally funded bikeway project, and there's a lot of time and effort going into it. And so I really would hope we end up with more than a painted bike lane and not much else at the end of the day. So yeah, so I'd say, however we want to word that, something like we strongly support concept 2 and we believe concept 1 should not be further pursued, something like that.
Are you willing to just start it for us, and then we can check in on with you later?
Sure, I can.
All right,
do that.
Joey.
Yeah, I guess I was. Yeah, I would support that. I would support that motion to specifically support concept 2, including the vertical separation there between the bike lane and the vehicle lanes.
Okay. Anyone else with any questions?
Marty, just quickly to jump in on process here. This is Chris. Just like previously, we haven't really been voting on those resolutions in subcommittees. So I think the next step for that will just be to Matthew or Janice, however we want to move that language forward, we'll bring it to the full committee.
Gotcha.
Since this isn't the full committee, is it okay to use the chat to work on drafting motion?
No, we have the same rules. We shouldn't be putting any content in there. But if you wanted to start an email chain, you could do that as long as it's not a quorum of members.
Okay, sounds good.
So Matthew, just for the record, I'm not going to work on a motion now because I'm taking minutes. I can't do both.
Fair, very fair. So I'll work on a motion and send it to you and Martha. And who else should I include?
Probably Chris.
Millicent and Chris, yeah. And then we can get it on the agenda for the full meeting.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Well, thank you for the presentation. That was fast and fabulous at the same time. So we're going to move on to our second. And again, thank you so much. We're going to be doing the 53rd Avenue North Bikeway layout 30 to 60%. Is Jasmine here?
Jasmine, I'm here.
All right. Are you ready
Thanks,
to
Marty.
rock and roll?
I am. Thank you. And let me just share my screen. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Jasmine Hadjic-Stanek. I am a transportation planner in Public Works, and I am here as a follow-up. I was initially in front of this committee several months ago, I believe it was summer, to present on this project at 0%. And now we are back to show you 30 to 60%. So as a brief recap of what we talked about back in June, is that this project, 53rd Avenue North Bikeway, which is located in North Minneapolis, Ward 4, is a 2022 project, which is part of a street resurfacing. So Public Works plans to resurface 1.2 miles between Penn Avenue North and Lyndale Avenue North, for those of you who are familiar with this area. This is actually a border street between City of Minneapolis and Brooklyn Center. And as a lot of you know, Minneapolis Public Works has a standard practice that with our mill and overlays or resurfacing projects, we like to take that opportunity to really leverage our resources and implement a bikeway connection as identified in our city's 10-year transportation action plan, All Ages and Abilities Network. So looking at our All Ages and Abilities Network, this segment of 53rd is identified as a long-term low-stress bikeway, meaning that down the road it would become a low-stress, but for now it would serve as a connector, really connecting folks who are biking between Penn Avenue here, which connects the Shingle Creek Parkway and the North Mississippi Regional Park. So some of our goals, really by leveraging our resources, we want to enhance safety on this roadway. Right now, 53rd Avenue North has around 135 reported crashes, which is fairly high for a street that has somewhere between 2,100 and 5,300 vehicles per day. 3 of those reported crashes are pedestrian with just minor or possible injury, 0 bicycle crashes, and then we have 132 motor vehicles. A large number of these were rear end type of crashes, with one being a head-on. Much of 53rd is a fairly wide road. For those of you who potentially live over here or travel this area, right now we really have anywhere from 36 feet to 42, in some cases 44 feet, with unmarked parking lanes in some areas. So you have around 17 feet just for one driving lane. Currently, because of all the potholes, maybe cars are going a little bit slower, but there is a concern that once this is resurfaced, really this wide road will become even more kind of a getaway or a cut through for vehicles who are speeding. So with that in mind, some of the data that we looked at, a parking study, and some of the initial engagement that we did with this group, neighborhood organizations, we developed a design concept, which I want to walk you through. Let me just back up over here. I'm going to start at Penn Avenue here. So this is where I believe it was this committee that recommended that this is where we should have signage that points down to Shingle Creek, even though it's just 1 block south. So this is where our project would start. And what we're proposing on this side is striping standard bike lanes. So you would have 10-foot driving lanes in each direction with a 1.5 to 2 foot buffer, and then 6.5 to 7 foot bicycle lane. The reason why this concept is being proposed is because this area, the west end of 53rd, has much lower traffic vehicle counts. The street almost kind of ends over here at Russell. It dead ends to a park. And also we have several transit stops that would really impact a different type of facility. So this would carry all the way through to Humboldt Avenue North, which is actually where we would transition to a two-way bollard protected bikeway facility, which would include, again, 10-foot lanes, a 3-foot buffer, and then at a minimum 12-foot two-way bikeway facility, and in some cases more than that, because the street does vary a lot. We would retain parking on these 2 blocks to, again, narrow visually that street. We have a transitional bike box here that would help the westbound bicyclist kind of carry forward on so they can continue west onto these bike lanes. So this would carry on towards the east end. We have another kind of typical section here. This is a 12-foot lane that would include 2 feet on curb and gutter, 10-foot lane, and just, again, your 12-foot two-way bikeway facility. We did have kind of a conflict with one of the transit stops that the buses here had southbound on Bryan. So initially the bus stop used to be here on 53rd, but in order to be able to implement a two-way bikeway facility, we are proposing that we move that bus stop around the corner there, and we will work with those residents to notify them of that change. And again, this would continue now here when we get to the most eastern end, where we really see wider sections between 52 feet and 46. So our plan would be to continue on the bollard protective two-way bikeway facility and connect here to Mississippi River Trail, and then also just adding a shoulder here on the bridge to, again, visually narrow that. So a pretty straightforward project, resurfacing, and I'm happy to take any questions. I do want to thank you all for your feedback at 0%. Initially, we were just looking at doing standard bike lanes, and we see this as really listening and wanting to do something more that would provide the protection.
Thank you, Jasmine. Oh, Matthew.
I just had a quick question.
Real quick.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, I'll go. Just real quick, I want to gush about my coworker Jasna here. She sort of drove this effort. So we were totally planning on doing standard bike lanes. She heard from a lot of people that they wanted something better. And it became like a little bit harder of a project. So I just want you all to know, this is all Jasna is doing to like upgrade where we typically wouldn't have done that. So just wanted to share that.
And I want to thank Matthew. I'd like to thank you too, because I live over that way. So
I know.
I love it. All right. Do we have anyone with questions?
Yeah, this is Adrienne. I have my hand raised here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I was curious if you could talk a little bit about why going with bollards instead of like a protected curb bikeway.
Yeah, so initially, as Matthew said, we were just looking at doing standard bike lanes. That's right. If you look at the history of how we implement these type of connector bikeways with resurfacing projects, which don't really come with a lot of money. These are kind of quick fixes that we can do now just using striping and signage. So this is not a reconstruction. It doesn't involve funding that would cover any type of permanent installation, such as curb or putting the bikeway on curb level with a sidewalk. So this is really us trying to think how we can more creatively provide a more protected facility using the limited funding that we do have allocated for this project. So that's kind of where the bollards were the best that we could get in this scenario.
Great, thank you for explaining that.
Matthew, did you have your hand still up?
Yes, thank you. So I was just curious. I noticed there's a significant amount of traffic here, and it's kind of a key connector. But I wonder if closer to the western side of the facility, there'd be an opportunity to add a diverter somewhere so that you'd get a little bit of traffic reduction. And maybe that's beyond the scope of this project, but it was just seemed like there's enough traffic volume to maybe warrant something like that.
Do you have like an example of where the city has done that?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of neighborhoods where they use diagonal diverters to minimize traffic through traffic. So it would be like maybe at Newton or Oliver or something like that.
If I may, Yasna, could I jump in?
Yeah.
So I think part of it, Matthew, is that this is this is a state aid route, and we don't typically do the vertical, or I guess the bollard, or sorry, the diverters on that. I don't know that we could in the same way as sort of like the neighborhood greenway, 16th Ave North or 24th Street, near Matthews. So I mean, it's a good question, but we don't typically. I don't know that we can do that on a state aid route like this.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
But it's a good comment. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Jasmine, what did you need from us? Do you need a resolution or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if there is something that, supports this design, it would be great to have that we can share, with Brooklyn Center. And, if we do get any kind of pushback in terms of like, parking removal, I think it would be nice to have some type of support from this group for this bikeway design.
Okay, does anyone want to take that on with a statement?
This is Janice. I can just add a statement in the minutes about that, we support the project as presented.
All right. Does that work for you, Jasmine?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you for helping my neighborhood.
Thank you. See you at Lynn Bohanna neighborhood meeting.
All right. See you there.
Bye.
Bye. All right. We have the 58th Sunrise Bikeway. Is Kristen here?
Hello.
Hello. Are you ready to present?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Go for it.
All right. So thanks for having me back. I was here, I don't know, a handful of months ago to introduce this project for 58th and Sunrise. This is actually the same type of project that Yasna was just talking through with you. This is also a mill and overlay. This will be implemented in 2022. So what we're looking at is signing some striping and bollards. Our limits are from 60th Street, full length of Sunrise, and then a portion of 58th from Sunrise over to Highway 121. That is the mill and overlay. We'll see here that I'll show a section of roadway in between kind of Aldrich and kind of crossing over a Highway 121 with some striping changes. That portion is not scheduled for mill and overlay, but we are exploring that for striping. So just kind of a recap of our goals here for this project. Just improving the overall safety along the corridor for all of our users. Right now we have pretty wide travel lanes. We don't have any bicycle facilities in this area. Currently on 58th and Sunrise, we do have connectors up to Bryant heading north. And then on the eastern side of Highway 121, there's Lindale heading south. We're looking to enhance the comfort and predictability of our users, especially our bicyclists, and then just supporting our existing and future bicycle demands and improving the network connectivity. So you can kind of see some existing conditions a little bit in the two photos here. This top one here is 58th Street. It's just a a pretty typical 36-foot wide roadway in our neighborhood connector. You see there's closely on the bus stop here, there is transit service along this corridor. However, it is suspended currently due to the pandemic. It's Route 156, but Metro Transit has noted that they will be bringing service back to this corridor. And then on Sunrise, roadway significantly changes. It's at 44 feet, so an additional 8 feet, still with the transit service on either side of the road. There's street parking on either side currently, and two travel lanes. So project schedule, we've kind of gone through the data collection portion, working through public engagement still. Earlier in the fall, went to Kenny Elementary and connected with quite a few families at their back to school event. And with that, I'm going to spend a fair bit of time just kind of going through the layout for this project. So as you can see here, it's about 0.7 miles of roadway that's being resurfaced that will be doing the striping. So I'll start here at 60th and Sunrise. So for Sunrise Drive, the kind of our design here, it doesn't change. It stays the same throughout the corridor. We have on the left-hand side, so we have a transit stop here at this corner. There's no stop mechanism here. So we're dashing the bike lane with the buffer at the bus stop. And other than that, it would just be a 6-foot bike lane with a 2-foot buffer. And then we are looking to bollard protect. We do have driveways throughout the corridor, so we'll need to leave those open to keep access. On the eastern side of the street, we looked at floating our parking just to protect the bicyclists as much as we could. However, there's just too many driveways and conflicts on this corridor that it would make for a really inconsistent design. It would create a lot of striping and signage, just a lot of maintenance issues, and then just sight triangles for people trying to leave their driveways. It wasn't going to be maybe a design that we would have preferred to get the most out of it. So for this one, we're going to keep with the bike lane up against, we'll have the buffer and then the bike lane and parking against the curb. For this block, there won't be any bollard protection just because of the parking lane adjacent to the curb. We are shrinking our travel lanes significantly. You can see these are down to 10 feet, 6-foot bike lane, and then an 8-foot parking lane. So I'll kind of come down here so we can see kind of what we have in an existing versus what's proposed. So existing, right now we have a shared travel and parking lane, 22 feet on either side of the roadway, and how that space would be reallocated would just be with our bike lane, 2-foot buffer with bollard protection, and then our travel lanes at 10 feet. You can see our parking lane against the curb and bike lane adjacent to the travel lane. So this design stays throughout. Sunrise, there's really no changes. We have a couple bus stops that interrupt it, but pretty typical design. We do have a slight kind of variation here at the corner, just where the parking would end on Sunrise. We will not have parking on 58th. Currently, parking is permitted on the south side of 58th. However, through parking studies, we found that it was fairly minimally utilized. So the bike lane would come through. You'd have 6-foot bike lanes again. We would be able to bollard protect all along 58th and provide 10-foot travel lanes. Currently, we do have some marked crosswalks here, just getting students to Kenny Elementary into the park. those would remain. We have a transfer spot for the school. We would keep that and just dash through there. Emerson, we would continue to keep all 4 of the striping as an entrance to the elementary. So the design really doesn't change at all on 58th. It just continues this for all of the blocks. And then the portion, so the mill and overlay will stop approximately here at Aldrich. This portion through here on 58th, which is tying in with Highway 121, is not scheduled for a mill and overlay, but we did want to do some striping because we recognize the importance of getting users that are using Bryant and coming along 58th to then connect to Lindale, which goes south. So we just recognize the importance of this intersection. So currently on Highway 121, we have kind of a 4-lane layout where we have a through travel lane, and then we have a left lane, and then that's duplicated on the south side. So we looked at this as an opportunity to greatly kind of change the layout here and really protect bicyclists through this intersection. There's a lot of movements and quite a few intersecting conflict points. So we were able to work with other divisions to kind of determine if there was a need for a designated left turn lane that would take you north onto Highway 121. We were able to come to the conclusion that we could suffice with traffic coming through and remove that and give more space to the bicyclists and give some protection. So we have a little bit of where the curb kind of bumps out a little bit here. So bicyclists can kind of follow along there, continue that protection. There's a couple different names to these, but one name could be like a slow turn wedge, where we kind of paint in the corner and do some bollards. That kind of helps to just extend the protection for a cyclist as they get out into the intersection. And one piece that kind of helps us is we have quite a large shoulder on 121 that's paved roughly about 10 feet. So we can kind of use this to kind of move the bicyclists further out into the roadway and protect them as they get out into the intersection. Obviously, we're marking quite a bit of the pavement with conflict markings, and then where we can, doing the buffer and bollard protection. So we've got that on the north and the south side. I think so. I have a little bit of a cross section just to kind of help understand what that looks like. So currently today, this is what it looks like. It's 54 feet of space. We have a bike lane with no buffer heading eastbound. On the westbound side is actually not a designated bike lane. It's a shared space between the bicyclist and the motorist, and we have 2 travel lanes. So our proposal is to designate bike lanes on either side, buffer with bollard protection where possible, 1 travel lane heading eastbound, remove the northbound turn lane, and then continue to have the westbound turn lane and the southbound, or I'm sorry, the westbound travel lane and the southbound travel turn lane. So I know that's quite a bit of information and a lot of changes at that intersection. So I'll kind of open it up and listen for comments and questions.
Thanks, Kristen. Janice.
I just wanted to clarify. So on the Sunrise part of it, it looked like there was a little bit of a protection, just not bollards. I mean, a little bit of a buffer, just not bollards. Is that right? So there wasn't just a stripe, it was like a double stripe?
So it's
on Sunrise?
So on Sunrise, one side of it where we don't have parking, we'll do a buffer with bollard protection. On the other side, it'll have parking, so it'll just be a buffer with no bollard protection.
Yeah, but it will be but it'll still be a buffer as opposed to just a
Correct.
single. Okay.
Yep.
Anyone else? I'm not seeing any hands.
I wanted to just chime in on the future of that 121 intersection. I think you all did a good job given the limitations of this resurfacing versus reconstruction. I remember from a few months ago there were some ownership issues too, where it's managed by somebody other than the city. So I just given the monstrosity of that intersection, I think this looks good. I've been trying to picture the whole time you've been showing it how that would feel biking, and I think I might be afraid to do it as it is now, but maybe would try it with this layout, which I think is a big improvement.
Appreciate that.
Janice, is your hand still up? Janice?
No, sorry. I raised my hand. Okay, there we go. I guess I would just ask the same question about whether he would like support. Should we just say we support the project as presented, if that would be helpful?
Is that helpful, Kristen?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
All right. It sounds like we have a plan. All right. Anyone else? All right, Kristen, thank you for that presentation. And we'll be putting that in our notes and have a great evening. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. We are at
Marty, are you there?
Looks like Marty went out. Christian, I think you're on the next one as well, right?
Yeah, I am.
If you want to just jump in, I think we can go ahead.
Okay.
Or it looks like Marty's back, maybe.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm on school internet. Go for it.
Sure. So just doing a little bit of an introduction on this one. Nothing, no resolutions or anything needed on this one. So I'm leading concrete rehab for 2022. This is our rehabilitation program. We have a couple corridors that we're looking at. Sorry, kind of zooming in here. So in 2022, we are looking at concrete streets of Minnehaha Avenue from Franklin down to 24th Street. That has a bikeway currently on it. And then we're looking at 44th Street from Minnehaha over to Edmonds / the Parkway, essentially. There's no bike facility on that portion. And then we're also looking at 42nd Avenue, which goes from 42nd Street down to 46th Street. There's no bikeway on that portion either. But the portion that we do have, so just kind of do a little bit of a Google Street View for you. So we're looking at two intersections that could potentially have some significant impacts and changes just from a geometry standpoint, and that is Minnehaha and Franklin. So Franklin underwent some changes with the county a few years ago. They did a little bit of work here at this intersection, did some ADA work, but we're looking to come through and identify panels that need replaced. And then within that, we're looking at just our opportunities for changing any kind of roadway geometry that maybe doesn't fit, our goals and as a city, and maybe some safety benefits that we could provide. Also looking at some green infrastructure, so we can do some greening and also stormwater management. So here currently, we have kind of this somewhat of, a slip lane here for the right-hand turn. We have, kind of the travel lane, one travel lane heading south from Franklin. There's been some striping changes a little bit here. They're used to.
Kristen, do you realize you're not sharing your screen?
Oh my gosh. So sorry. Sorry, I thought that was. Okay.
It's working for me, actually.
Oh, it was?
So it might be different
I
for
could see it.
users.
Yeah.
I could too.
Okay, sorry. I don't know what happened to me.
Okay. Well, I apologize for those of you that it wasn't, but I'm glad it was for the most of you. So anyhow, just kind of looking at this intersection and how we can redesign this, make it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists, motorists, how they'll come through. So we're working through kind of what those designs can be. We'll be going out to the neighborhood and working through kind of our standard process of going through different committees and in the neighborhoods and council members to let them know of this process. So we're in the early stages right now. We're just identifying what panels need replaced and looking at the significant changes for intersections. So this is a high priority for us at this particular intersection for a redesign. And our other intersection is actually very close. This one here at Minnehaha and 21st, you can also see, there's quite a bit of asphalt on the ground where just the roadway is in poor condition. This one has, some pretty big geometry of just how 21st and Minnehaha connect. There's been a little bit of work here with just some bollards that have come in to try and change up that geometry somewhat, so you can kind of see the bike lane that comes through here. So we'd just be looking to upgrade this intersection, look at our greening and stormwater management opportunities, making sure that we're meeting ADA and providing safe crossings at all legal crossings. Where could we remove excess pavement, and then just providing, good bicycle and pedestrian connections through here. So this is our other, main intersection that we're looking at. But throughout the rest of the corridor, we'll be looking for opportunities where we could do some greening and just some traffic calming elements where those may be feasible. So, but I think these are the two intersections that I think would interest the BAC the most on this project. So with that, that's just a really high level introduction. Just kind of wanted to get that in front of you all, just to make you aware of what we're looking at. And I'll come back to this group when we have some designs and something to put in front of you to kind of see where we're heading.
Thanks for the heads up. Appreciate that. Any comments? I am not seeing. Oh, I see a hand.
Hey, it's me, Aaron.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I just wanted to say this looks like a good thing. I work at a nonprofit that has an office at Cedar, kind of just a block north of that Minnehaha intersection there with Franklin. Cedar and kind of just north of that Taco Bell. And so I'm over in that area pretty frequently. And then we also have another office at on 27th Avenue. So I'll kind of hop between those two. And that slip lane there on Minnehaha, combined with how close it is to Cedar and how wide Cedar is, definitely makes it feel pretty dangerous. I think obviously your team will look at this, but just putting it out there that doing anything we can to squeeze that intersection. And I kind of feel like swing that northwest facing tip more to be kind of due north or north-south, so it's more teed up with that intersection too will make a huge difference. And then I haven't really interacted much with the 21st Avenue, but obviously looking at it on Google Maps, it looks very frightening to cross if you're on that east side of Minnehaha, trying to cross 21st Avenue. It looks like it's about 100 feet wide or something. So definitely like just teeing up some of those will make a huge difference. And I'm sure that's what you all are probably going to do, but I thought I would just put that out there.
Yeah, definitely. There's quite a bit of opportunity to just kind of align users better, create shorter crossing distances, and protect our most vulnerable users of the street. So,
cool.
Kristen, do you know when you're going to be coming back? Can you give us like a ballpark?
I don't have a date in mind, but it'll be mid to late winter probably.
Okay. All right. Anyone else with questions or comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for giving us a heads up on that. And we look forward to seeing you mid-winter.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. All right, is Dan Edgerton here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You're going to be talking about the 40th Street Bikeway, and you're at 30%.
Yeah, that's correct. And I'd like to share a brief slideshow if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, can you see my slide?
I can.
All right, great. Well, I'll dig in. Thank you, everybody, for having me this evening. Yes, I'm here to talk about the 40th Street Bikeway. I've got maybe 10-ish slides that I'll run through and then get through that quickly, and hopefully time at the end if there's any discussion that or questions that need to happen. So brief overview of what's in my presentation. I'll just get to it though. Here's the project area. You can see it's 40th Street, which is South Minneapolis. It goes from Kings Highway on the west over to Stevens Avenue, basically 35W on the east. This project would be put in 2022. And the impetus for the project is that there is some maintenance. There's a seal coat planned for 40th Street happening in the summer. And so the idea is that we would put the bikeway back in as part of the restoration for that seal coat. And so today, I'll cover this in a little bit more detail, but today 40th Street does have existing striped bike lanes, directional, so on the north and the south side. And the proposed project is to replace those directional bike lanes with a two-way delineator protected bikeway on the south side. So it's not a capital project. There's no curb work or reconstruction involved, but it's paint and delineator posts. And there is a little bit of signal work that'll happen, but very, very minor. So this is a very ugly map, and I apologize for that, but the point is just to illustrate that this is a critical east-west connection, and it really does link together a ton of stuff in the area. All of the north-south bikeways, and with a short connection that gets you to the Grand Rounds and around the lakes and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a really important link in the AAA network. I kind of already talked about it, but the proposed concept is to do a two-way delineator protected bikeway on the south. It's about a mile long. You can see the quick cross section on the bottom. The picture, this is Oak Street over by the U of M, but it would be similar to that type of a design. Really quick, a couple of slides that show what's there today and sort of what the concept would look like. There are a couple of different cross sections that exist out there today. Most of the corridor looks like this, where there's parking on the north side, bike lanes, and then no parking on the south side. The proposed concept would reallocate the space so that we have the two-way protected facility on the south side, and it would maintain the parking for most of the corridor. There is an exception, and that exception is a 2-block stretch. It unfortunately happens to be a business node, but it's the area between Bryant and Lyndale. In this area today, there is parking on both sides of the street, and under the proposed concept, we would lose one side of the street parking. So it's about 19 spaces in order to be able to have that continuous facility through on the south side of the road. So this is just more, kind of cross sections. This is very similar to the first one that I showed, but I think you can kind of see the concept proposed here, and we can talk more details if in the discussion if people have questions. So there are some parking impacts. I did mention that we did do a parking study and are working with the businesses and the local stakeholders to have those conversations. But generally, the proposal calls for losing about 19 parking spaces on a 2-block stretch. So timeline, this project, as I mentioned, is slated to be installed in summer, probably July or August timeframe as part of that seal coat project that I talked about. In terms of process, we are doing some community engagement now, meeting with neighbors, businesses, that kind of thing. And the idea is to have the design finalized by about the end of the year. And then this would go through the council in a to the record approval process, which means it's not, like capital projects, you have the layout and you have the 0, 10, 30, 90. This is a little bit different. It still is considered by council, but it's a little bit different process. What that means is I wouldn't necessarily come back to this group unless there was interest. I certainly could. But we will move forward with the design kind of as shown and working through the stakeholder engagement process. So if there were no major changes or issues with what we have, we would continue through, have it approved by about the end of the year, work through engineering in the winter, and be ready to install this thing in the summer. So that was quick, kind of threw a lot at you there, but I'll stop there. And please, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I would like to hear them now.
Okay, well, thank you. I see a hand, Aaron.
Yeah, this one is one I'm very excited about. So thank you, Dan. I live just a few blocks south of 40th in Kingfield. So a couple of kind of questions and one comment. Or two, I guess one question, two comments. So one question I have is just on that western edge near Bryant, looking at your proposed layout there. I'm imagining it's kind of blank there just because with the incoming Bryant Avenue bikeway that would link to that. Is that?
Yeah,
okay.
You got it. And I'm sorry, I spaced over that. A key point or a key piece of this project is both the Bryant Avenue reconstruction project and actually the Grand Avenue reconstruction project to the east are building out the bikeway improvements as those projects. So it's setting up for this as part of the reconstruction. So we'll have a sort of the bend out protected intersection design at both Bryant and at Grand Avenue. So that's those are being put in as part of their respective projects, but this project is going to be able to leverage that, which is great.
Cool. And then I guess so one of the two comments is that, so currently, as you've probably noticed, when the bike lanes that exist already that are just the single paint ones, end at Lyndale, if you're traveling westbound, suddenly you find yourself with nothing. And so I think these two blocks, I don't know what neighbor opposition might end up being, but those are going to be super key to making this a usable bikeway. And so I imagine we're ready to hear some negativity toward it, but hopefully it can stick with it and not kind of loosen the rules on that one. Then the other comment I had was, if you look back over closer to Nicollet on this, one thing to really be concerned about in terms of what we're protecting the bike lane with is there's a car wash on the north side at Nicollet and 40th. And what I see pretty much daily is 1 to 2 cars pretty frequently blocking the existing bike lane to dry off their car or do whatever it is you do after a car wash. And so coming up with maybe a more firm way of blocking that off. I know you said there's no curb work plan, but if maybe there can be something more substantial, maybe taller bollards or just something more intimidating to keep people.
Yeah, I just, sorry if I can ask a follow-up question.
Sure.
So and I'll look at this. Thank you for the comment. We'll take a look. So the car wash is on the north side, and when you see the cars blocking the bike lane, is that both sides of the street? So they'll pull into the bike lane on the south side?
For some reason, it's more frequently the south side.
So it must be the way they pull out of there, and it's just the convenient sort of layover, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, and I know there's spaces in the car wash for it, but maybe there's not enough, or maybe they forgot. I don't really know, but there's yeah, it's pretty. I'd say maybe it's 50-50 depending on when I'm going by it. That if it's a busy car wash day, you're definitely probably going to see somebody there.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's great feedback. Thank you. And hopefully having, the double stripe and the delineator posts will help discourage some of that, but it's something that we can take a closer look at. So thank you.
If you can pull them up or something like that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I am not seeing anyone's hand. I apologize if I missed this. Dan, what do you need from us?
It would, if the group is willing, a motion of support would be great.
Do I have any motions?
I can work
Should I just say support as presented, unless Aaron wants to add something.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
great.
Janice, if you felt like doing that, that would be great. And
Thank you.
maybe we could add some wording just with just like extra caution near car wash at Nicollet intersection.
I think that's a great idea.
And if you send it to if you don't feel if it feels weird when you're writing it, you could share with me and I could add something too. Thank you, Janice.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing anyone else's hand. Dan, when will you be coming back?
I won't, unless you needed me to for some reason.
Okay,
This
all
one,
right.
I kind of mentioned it's the to the record process, and we go straight into design from here.
All right, great. All right, I don't see any more hands. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay, thank you, group. I appreciate it.
All right, have a great evening. All right, is Bria here?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Hi, Bria, City View. What do you have for us, Bria?
Yep, I have City View, Safe Routes to School, 0%. Let me share my screen with you all. All right, is my screen up and running?
Yes.
Great, wonderful. Well, this is my first time presenting to you all at the BAC, so I'm Bria. I'm a new associate planner with TPP. I'm going to be introducing the City View Safe Routes to School project today. Like I said, it's at 0%. This project is located adjacent to City View School, so that's along 4th Street North and 34th Ave North in the McKinley neighborhood. So that's just north of Lowry and just west of I-94 in Ward 4. This project is going to be considering the typical suite of traffic calming treatments and will be comprised entirely of retrofits, no reconstruction. This is the project schedule as well as the project team. Right now, 0% engagement, moving into initial concepts within a couple of weeks, having that 15%, those initial design concepts by about January and bringing those out to the community with engagement from about January to April, and then moving forward from there. And then if we take a few steps out, the Safe Routes to School project is kind of put in place with a little bit more context. So the gray shaded rectangle on the map on the left is what you can see on the right, that Google sort of street view image. And the two projects that are located closest to the City View Safe Routes to School project are the Upper Harbor Terminal, just east, and then the pedestrian safety project, linear project along Lyndale Avenue North, which is just to the west. Goals here of the project: making it safe, fun, convenient for kids to get to and from school, to enhance the bicycle and ped networks, to integrate traffic calming elements that reduce vehicle speeds, and then to fulfill the city goals for complete streets, Vision Zero, and all ages and abilities bikeways, transportation equity, and climate action plans. As for the networks that are located in the project area, there's a few key networks that I'm considering as the project moves forward. The first would be the bike and pedestrian networks laid out in the Transportation Action Plan. So these include the pedestrian priority network, shown with the blue, the big blue line, the future connector and long-term low-stress bikeway on North Lyndale Ave, and then the future near-term low-stress bikeway on 4th Street North and 34th. So that falls directly on top of the proposed route. So again, other things to note here would be there's a little bit of a circle in that number 4 around the Lyndale Ave intersection with 34th. That's a future intersection for a completely different project. So that is not an intersection that we are considering for this project, but it will be a future site for pedestrian safety improvements. As for the route options, the proposed route is on the left. However, after doing some engagement, it's possible that the treatments could extend further north on 4th or further west across Lyndale on 34th Avenue. Further engagement with City View staff and families and residents is going to help make the final call on what the final route is going to be. But I can see both of these extensions as possible options that would help us achieve our goals after a couple of engagement efforts that have already been done and some great feedback that we've already gotten. As for the existing conditions, a few things to note. Parent drop-off. So there's a very small traffic circle located near the main entrance of the school. That's number 1. This gets very congested. It's essentially a drop-off circle around a very tiny parking lot. So run into some issues there. Bus drop-off, however, is located mid-block between 34th and 33rd. Number 3 is the Fellowship Baptist Church parking lot. They have a very large and very active congregation. So the street and this area is activated on the weekends, as well as on some weeknights. They have programming, especially Wednesday nights. And then number 4 is an alternative parent drop-off. There have been a lot of bus driver shortages, which have led to a couple of the buses sometimes are not able to arrive due to staffing. So unfortunately, parents have to scramble to drop off kids often in the morning, or sometimes they have to scramble to come pick them up if a bus does not arrive. A lot of parents are doing it here, and kids are crossing at that 34th and 4th intersection, even if they are not fully walking, biking, or rolling from home. As for some of the existing conditions, again, there have been 2 engagement events, as well as a site visit I did, and the results have been pretty similar. Excessive speeding, like we talked about, increased parent drop-off, and increased signage demand for alerting folks that they are entering a school zone. The active church congregation and parking areas, and then a demand for quick solutions as well. This project will go out 2023. But again, there has been so much speeding and reckless driving that folks have really been asking for quick solutions, be that quick build treatments or temporary treatments. This is an overview of just some of the engagement that's been done. This included a walk, bike, roll audit that took place in September, as well as some tabling at a City View School Parent-Teacher Conference. We received surveys from the walk, bike, roll audit, as well as in-person engagement with a map and a question sheet for the parents. And again, the 3 priority issues to come out of that would be the excessive speeding, especially along 4th Street North, which is a connector between the Dowling exit of I-94 and Lowry. And then highlighting school zone designation, there are 2 school ahead signs on 4th Street. Folks have, it sounds like folks would really like to see more signage or treatments that are really alerting folks that they're entering a school zone. And again, near-term solutions. These are some of the results, again, from the surveys from the walk, bike, roll audit. And I think, again, noting here that we're hearing the same stuff. Speeding is a huge problem, especially on 4th Street. Possible treatments, again, include speed bumps, pedestrian medians, bump outs, bike boulevards, mini traffic circles, stop signs, also the possibility of a raised crossing. Looking at sort of the full suite of traffic calming here, with a huge focus on trying to figure out treatments that could really help us minimize some of the excessive speeding and reckless driving. And then possible options for quick builds or temporary treatments in spring or summer of next year or beyond. And then some of the next steps. The rest of 0% engagement will finish up with an online survey. This will be trying to ask a couple of the same questions that the walk, bike, roll audit was asking, with more of a focus with engaging City View parents and really trying to get a kind of an idea of where kids are coming from and how to prioritize kids getting to City View School safely. And that is it for right now. If there are any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. Hey, I want to thank you for getting the community involved and being at the PTO meetings. That's very, very important. And I live near there, and yeah, the traffic is really, really bad.
Yeah.
I thought I saw Aaron's hand. Did I see Aaron's hand? Aaron, you're muted.
Oh, hey, sorry. I'm just looking at the map and the connections and hearing talk of the high speeds of drivers. I'm wondering if there's a way to divert some of the traffic so that 4th Street isn't a through street through Lowry. And maybe it's like converting a block to be one way or something like that, but somewhere in that kind of L shape of the pedestrian improvement zone.
Yep.
On 4th Street, I think. I'm looking at just south of 34th, maybe. Yep. Just thinking about like, just I don't know what the ability is for the project to do that, but just as one idea for how you might help solve that, or even if you just provide some sort of physical, like even the traffic circle you had talked about, like maybe doing that at some of those intersections.
Yep.
Just so it kind of reduces that straight line acceleration zone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's my only thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else with comments or questions? I am not seeing any hands. Bria, what do you need from us? Do you need any kind of statement? Are you coming back? What is
I will be coming back. I will be coming back at 15%. So in a few months, I will be back with a few concepts. So I will be back to you then. I'm new at this. As of right now, I do not think I need anything from you. But Chris, if I need something, please let me know.
Yeah, no. I think 0% at this point. I don't think we need anything. So you're right on, Bria. Possibly next time, depending on what the concept options look like and all that.
Okay, great.
All right. So if that's it, no other questions? Last call. All right.
Where'd you go, Marty?
Can't hear you, Marty. Is she?
Okay, can you guys hear me? I don't know what I'm.
Yeah.
I've had Zoom crash in the past.
We had you for a second, but I think we'll go ahead and officially wrap up the meeting unless Marty jumps in with any last 2 cents right here. But thanks, everybody. That was one of the bigger agendas we've had in a while. Thanks for sticking around.
And I apologize. I'm at school, but I don't know why my internet is dropping. I'm at my work where it should be perfect, but it's not working.
Matthew and Chris, I've been seeing some amazing stuff on that Blaisdell bikeway and First. So definitely big thumbs up to your teams and everybody you work with. I try to wave thanks to the guys actually pouring the concrete, but they probably just think I'm weird.
Nice. I haven't seen the Blaisdell section yet, so I'm pretty excited. The first looks awesome too, but that's the temporary treatment. So I'm not concrete. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Matthew and I were talking that there's some really good projects this year, and we're going to be doing the annual review with all the photos and stuff. So I think it'll be a good one.
Yeah, actually, the Plymouth one too. I've had the privilege of. Google told me it was closed still, but I happened to go there when it had just been soft open the night before.
Nice.
On Friday, I think I wrote, and it was wonderful. There were kids playing on the sides, like it looked exactly how we envisioned it. So.
Yeah, 4th Street downtown, Johnson in Northeast, Hennepin downtown, Bryant.
Have you all? Oh, sorry. Have you all seen 42nd and West River Parkway?
No.
So check that out. It's like a long block or a couple blocks or something like that, maybe one. But that is a really interesting one. It's the street is like literally like 20 feet wide, and inside includes or within the gutter pan. But it almost have to like check. I did a little unofficial measurement because I'm like, gosh, that just looks so narrow. And that's the point, right? And then the bike path, because of the proportion looks so wide, so it's really cool.
Is that finished?
Well, I mean, it's like, I think the construction is largely complete. I'm guessing there's some, finishing up to do, but yeah, it's open.
That's cool. That's the one by the school. There's like a school right by there. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the reason that I bring that one up, since we have a little time, hopefully, but is, when we think about the neighborhood greenway system, that's pretty close to what I'm envisioning, just maybe a little narrower and make it a one-way, or, yeah, I just get excited thinking about the possibilities if we can do some of that. So
Do we need to look at the resolution at all while we have this little bit of time that were you working on it, Matthew?
Not this Matthew.
Who was working on it?
Yes,
The Hendricks.
Matthew Hendricks. Yeah, so I emailed it out to a small subset, and I could read it off now if that's helpful.
Is that okay, everybody? Since we have extra time.
It's good use of time, yeah.
Okay, so here's the motion. The BAC recommends that the Hennepin First Multimodal Improvements Project Team pursue Concept 2 exclusively because it includes a curb-protected bikeway and a dedicated transit lane. We recommend the team, we commend the team on the concept for improving and simplifying the intersection of 5th Street with Hennepin and Central. And then it continues, Concept 1 lacks both of these features, and by taking a very minimalist approach to any changes from existing conditions, it fails to fulfill the promise of a major project in achieving safety improvements. We recommend that any further pursuit of Concept 1 be discontinued, and that further community engagement focus on variations of Concept 2.
Okay, what are people thinking?
That sounds great.
I thought so too. Everybody agree with it? Good. Any word changes?
So there's one thing I noticed reading it. We maybe want to shift the "we commend the team" to the very end because it breaks up the contrast between Concept 1 and Concept 2.
Matthew, you'd have to make those changes.
Oh yeah.
Displaying a little bit.
Yeah,
Sure.
Maybe if you took that sentence and moved it to the end, and then just redefine that it's on. We commend the team on Concept 1. And then I've lost the text now, but
Yeah, and even maybe taking concept out of that sentence. We commend the team on their proposal for improving the intersection with 5th Street. Since it's not a separate concept, it's a different treatment that's being proposed in all concepts.
I'll just note I appreciate the focus on the difference between the two, because I think, given that it has federal funds and all of that, I don't think the a buffered bike lane even meets a definition that I would consider of low stress or all ages and abilities. So I do, I think it's the right direction.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right, this is it right here. Okay.
Hey, since we're talking about this,
So you want to move the "we commend" sentence to the end?
Yeah.
And then change it to say we commend. You said we commend the team on their proposal for improving and simplifying the intersection.
Yeah, perfect.
Say it again, Janice.
It's what he said. So
Janice, go ahead and do it in the minutes.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
you can. And
that's
then,
what I've got.
We're the subcommittee, you don't have to do all that. I just wanted to put it on the screen so you can see it.
I had a quick question, since we've got Matthew and Chris here, or maybe anyone else who remembers, but I didn't recall, and I wasn't able to find super quickly during the presentation, how these new bikeways on 1st and Hennepin will interact with the bikeways on 4th and University. If at all, do those continue? Does the protection on 4th and University continue through those?
I saw Jesse nodding. Jesse, were you nodding because of the question, or do you know the answer?
When I was looking at it, I was wondering why the protection wasn't continuing from 4th and University to like Hennepin and First, or to First specifically, in between the two blocks. The concept that they shared, it didn't look like there's any sort of protection or even any bike lane at all in between the two blocks. So that might be one thing that we want to talk about is like, Fifth is obviously getting better. But Fourth and University still don't, because these are one-way pairs, it's really good to have the connectivity between the two of them. And so specifically working towards improving that connectivity between the two via Fourth and University would be helpful.
I think that would be a really good comment. I used to live over there and use that a lot, and that would be a really important connection.
And from my understanding, I believe University and Fourth are kind of like they have extra capacity on them for vehicle traffic. So like I don't think that there's too much of an issue with reducing that capacity via lane reduction. So I think it's definitely worth having them explore a little bit further.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other comments?
And then one more. So
Okay.
sorry, I didn't mention all this before. I try not to put too much comment on it in the beginning. I know that when I believe when Hennepin County first came like at 0% or something like that for talking about this concept, one of the things that got brought up, and I can't remember who brought it up, was that on Fifth, there is no signalization at Fifth and First currently today, or in the proposed layout there. And I don't know if folks would want to try to work in there like some sort of like either RFB or some sort of like actuated signalization from bicyclists and pedestrians, so that it'd be easier to cross First at 5th Street.
You're saying there's not any signalization there? Maybe I'm picturing the wrong place, but isn't there?
There is at 5th and Hennepin. There's at 5th and Hennepin. I say, if I'm thinking correctly, I think there's at 5th and Hennepin, but not at 5th and First. Or sorry. Let me bring up the map on my end again. I'm just going to look at it again. But there's one intersection that's missing a signal, or not missing a signal.
Yeah, that one is currently missing a signal.
Yeah, and so there was concern brought up in our last time that particular intersection didn't have any sort of way for encouraging yielding to pedestrians and cyclists that are still trying to continue on the 5th bikeway.
Okay, yeah, I was picturing like the triangle, but not over there.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
next one down.
Yeah,
yep.
That the one. I know that one well. My girlfriend lost her teeth at that intersection on a bike, not from a car in the winter, but still. That would be like from a ped standpoint as well, like RFB or like some sort of like signal crossing help would be nice thing.
Yeah, or even just like a stoplight or something. I'm hesitant to ever want that, or a median of some sort. Like, I wonder if because otherwise there's the three lanes of traffic right there that you have to cross.
Yeah.
And I guess that's better than the current 5 lanes you have to cross. But
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other, Chris, have I missed anything? Are we good to go?
Oh yeah, we're good. I thought we'd be ending like half an hour from now, so good job today, Marty, keeping everything moving.
Oh, it's the teacher in me. Let's keep going, everybody.
Nice.
All right, so Janice, I'll talk to you about the notes. Thank you so much for your help, and everybody have a good evening. This concludes our meeting.
Bye.
Good night.